Welcome to the Bringing the Human Back to Human Resources podcast. I'm Traci Chernoff, and I've spent my entire professional career in HR. Each week, we'll explore the delicate balance between people and business with the aim to reconnect the two and create meaningful outcomes. Listen in as I share my own experiences, challenge the status quo, and chat with guests from various industries about our mission to bring the human back to human resources. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Bringing the Human Back to Human Resources podcast. And welcome to the 200th episode. Thank you so much. 200 episodes. Can you believe it? Woo! I'm so excited. There was a part of me that was like, I look like a rat that just crawled out of a sewer, but I still have to get on video because this is the 200th episode. And some of you, actually, most of you don't actually watch the videos. Most of you just listen. So I hopefully sound the exact same way as I normally do, but I almost didn't come on video because I have 2 sick kids at home. They have colds and it's just been a mess. And we just did an emergency bath and I didn't have time to put on makeup. So here I am, coming to you live, so to speak, as I am. And so here we are, 200 episodes in. I can't believe it. It's basically 4 years since the podcast started. So that's wild. Yeah, 50 episodes a year. Wow. I'm just taking this in for a moment. Let me just let this sink in. It's a lot of work. I should figure out how many hours that is of time because especially in the beginning, it was a lot because I was doing everything. I was doing the editing, obvious the recording. I was doing all the social media. And now in many ways, I'm thankfully not doing all of that. And I'm mostly doing some of the background stuff, of course, and then the recording, obviously. But it's so amazing to be 200 episodes in. I think I probably said this on the 100th episode, but I never thought that I was going to get here. I don't know. It's just like I started the podcast, I blinked, and now it's 4 years later. It's so crazy. It's just so crazy. But I really just want to emphasize how grateful I am for all of you who have listened from episode 1 or episode 199. I really truly appreciate you being here. And I just recently was in the city for a meeting for work and I met someone who said they listened to my podcast and I was like, oh God. And like, I always react that way because I'm like, oh my gosh, someone who is now meeting me in person has listened to me. And like, I think of like, I guess I'm kind of like rushed with all of these like thoughts like, oh my gosh, how did I sound? Did they like what I said? Did it resonate with them? Did they learn something new? And then I reminded myself, that's okay. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that someone is listening and there's more than just one someone listening, which I'm really so appreciative of. So again, thank you all for being here. And if the person that I met this week in the city is listening, thank you for listening. I think I might have said that in the moment, but if I didn't, it's because I was so overwhelmed with shock that someone actually listened to my podcast that I met in person. It's just like a weird, I don't know how to describe it. Maybe it's a little bit of imposter syndrome and I don't know, but sometimes I just don't know how to react when someone has said that they have listened to my podcast. Even my sister will listen to my episodes sometimes and she'll text me and she'll say, oh, I really liked that episode with Valerie, which was obviously only a couple episodes ago. And you guys like really had a nice, like, nice vibe together. And I'm like, oh my gosh, someone is listening to my podcast. But obviously I want people to listen to my podcast. So I don't know. It's a weird thing. So bear with me. If you do meet me in person and I like ever so slightly cringe, it's not you, it's me. 100% it's me. But anyway, I'm just so grateful, again, so grateful that you all are here. And hopefully the podcast will continue to grow and hopefully we continue to do amazing things and have amazing guests and all of the above. So all I can say is thank you. And to celebrate the 200th episode, as I mentioned last week, we're going to do a giveaway. So, of course, we're going to have a ton of fun with this. The last time we did a giveaway for basically like resume editing and curation format, and we're going to do the same thing because it was really nice. I think it was a good experience. I hope for the winner. And we were able to turn out a really nice resume for her. And she had a really nice resume actually to begin with. And we just kind of brought it to its best life, and zhuzhed it. And she and I worked together for a bit on it. And it was just like a nice way to connect with someone who listens also. So we're going to do that. We're going to give away basically a revamped resume. And all of the terms and like how to enter the giveaway and how to win and all of that will be on my Instagram. So make sure you follow me at HR Traci. Again, that's HRTRACI. And you can learn all about how you can enter for the giveaway. And I think we might have shared her testimonial from when we did the first resume giveaway, and like, of course, getting her feedback on how the experience was. I think we might have shared that, so maybe we'll share it again if not. But I do have the pleasure of working with clients all the time on their resumes, and so if you're interested to see how satisfied those clients are before you enter a giveaway, I get it. You can totally go to my website, hrtraci.com, and you can see all of the career services testimonials that I've gathered over the years, from resume work to CVs to executive bios to LinkedIn profiles, like everything. So interview prep, et cetera, et cetera. So feel free to hopefully enter the giveaway, and maybe you know someone who would really benefit from this giveaway and maybe they'll win. So tag them. And again, go to my Instagram to learn all about how to enter for the giveaway. And we generally announce the winner pretty quickly. I'm fairly skeptical of giveaways, so I like my giveaways to be like abundantly transparent. So we try to be quick with it. So keep an eye out for that. And hopefully one of you lucky winners will get to work with me very soon. So with that, let's move on just a little bit. I'm not going to have a super long episode for us this week because I'm still in the midst of the Jewish holidays and I'm looking at my clock and I have to leave my apartment very soon. So we're going to be fairly brief, I should say, and abbreviated in this episode. But I wanted to mention something that actually my assistant and I were talking about this week. And we were talking about how she's seeing all of this information around people looking for jobs, that people are not satisfied with work. They're looking for new jobs. There are jobs out there. And there are people who are having difficulty, obviously, looking for jobs. And we're also, I think we got on this subject because we're doing that layoff series coming up very soon. And, I said, well, as much as like that might be true, there's also this other side of things where there are people who do not want to leave their jobs because of this rise in layoffs and that they don't want to be the most recent person hired. They don't want to figure out or find out what's on the other side of the fence because they don't know how, there's so much unknown, right? Like they don't know how that could shake out for them. And so we were talking basically about how there is a bit of a contradiction between what is reported and what is reality, at least in my opinion. I think there are a ton of reports saying that most people are looking for new jobs. And anecdotally, I don't really feel that that's true. I don't think that there are so many people willingly looking for jobs. And I emphasize on the willingly because, of course, if someone has been laid off, they are going to be actively searching for a job. I'm talking about people who are currently employed looking for jobs. And when I say willingly, I don't believe that there is this massive number of people who are currently employed seeking other or new employment. I just don't get that feeling. That's not the pulse that I have on, at least within the US. Like that's not the pulse that I've gathered. And we were kind of talking about this in the scope of a recent report from Monster Work. It's their Monster Work Watch Report 2024. So it's from the company Monster. And I'll link this too, because it's actually a very interesting report. They have tons and tons of data. But I'm going to read you some of their key takeaways, and I'm probably going to talk about the ones that I feel are a little bit of a contradiction to the anecdotal information I believe I have. And I'm curious to know what all of you think also. It would be interesting even to do like a random poll amongst the listeners, because maybe statistically that would help us to better understand, like, is the pulse the reality? Is the pulse that I have anecdotally, that I feel I have, more accurate, or are these statistics more accurate? I don't know, but obviously they're getting this report from, gathering data from people, and they're running the surveys and stuff like that. But, at the end of the day, I still just, I don't I think that there is so much context that needs to be considered when we think about all of these data points. So I just want to mention that Monster polled US workers throughout the year to get their feedback on the most significant changes and factors that impacted the workforce. So this is not a point in time report. This is over the course of 2024, which I also think is important to note. So key takeaways. Workers have wandering eyes. 95% of workers are looking for or plan to look for a new job in 2024. This, I believe, is not reality. Maybe at the start of the new year, at the start of 2024, people were more interested in seeking new employment, but this was also before the rise in layoffs. I think this type of report is really hard. It's like you're looking at such a broad span of time rather than looking at a shorter period of time that could help to capture sentiment in the moment. Whereas over the course of the year, so many things go on. And now we're in election season. And I think people are much more conservative about their decisions in advance of an election year, regardless of their political affiliation. I just think that people generally are afraid of making a change for fear of what's to come and not knowing what's to come. And even if things politically shake out for them in terms of the person that wins is aligning with how they affiliate, I just think that generally the sentiment is that regardless, an election creates, a lot of unknown, and it results in potential change at a micro level and at a macro level. So I think generally people are just not as inclined to make changes. They're not as inclined to make big purchases. They're just, I don't know. I feel that way. Maybe I'm speaking for myself here, but I also know that I'm not the only person that thinks this way because I talk to people and they tend to feel the same way. So I don't know. Let me know if you agree or disagree on that point. But 95% of people, that's a high number. I mean, 95% of people polled, maybe. But then I wonder, and I don't see it here, who this is comprised of or how many people. But let's say, they polled 100 people across, every month. So let's say they ended up polling about 1,200 people throughout 2024, probably less because it's not the end of 2024. And they, maybe they represent part-time employees and also salaried workers. It's really hard to know how all of these people kind of look at their own role. Of course, part-time employees, people who work minimum wage, they're absolutely going to be searching for something newer and better. And I think that's reasonable and to be expected year over year. But it's really hard to make this blanket statement of 95% of people are going to look for a new job. I just don't think that's accurate. Then, of course, there's salary expectations in the current state of the economy. 81% of workers say their current wage has not kept up with the rising cost of living. That is true probably for everyone. Everyone talks about how there's, all this inflation and not enough pay. And I mean, this we know. On the other hand, this is how, as it continues, on the other hand, 34% of employers say that workers' salary expectations are higher and it's putting a strain on their bottom line. Oh, well. That's what I say to employers. Oh, well, this is how it goes. The reality is when cost of living goes up, of course, people are going to demand and expect more. And employers are also going to expect more as they increase salaries. Okay, you're going to increase salary, then we need to expect more from performance. It's just everything goes up. Everything is inflated. Costs, expectations, salary expectations, everything is up except salaries, I guess. I don't know. Then, I want to come down to this one thing here. Okay, the great return to office. Are workers migrating back to in-office work? 46% of American workers are back working in the office full-time compared to only 12% of workers that fulfill their role fully remote. I just want to say, be very skeptical of reports like this because this is based on the people they've polled. This is not reflecting all Americans. like 46% of American workers are back in the office full time. I don't know that that's true. This is where I'm saying I think there is some contradiction. And when reports like this are published that don't give like very clear understanding of who is polled, how many people are polled, if you take 1,000 people, that is like a fraction of the American population, a very, very small fraction. If you take like the number of working Americans, maybe it's a slightly larger fraction. But I just don't think reports should say like Americans are like this, Americans are working like that, this number of Americans are back at work, because this is not reflecting all Americans. So, I don't know, maybe I'm being way too skeptical here or way too critical, but I don't think so. Is DE&I still mandatory? Nearly 74% of workers would still apply to a position at a company that doesn't have significant diversity, equity, and inclusion policies and initiatives in place. However, employers continue to prioritize DE&I efforts. Now, we have seen many companies deprioritize DE&I, which I can't understand why, because the principle, regardless of what people believe or want to believe, the principles really matter. So maybe employers I hope employers continue to prioritize, but again, very blanket statement here. And saying 74% of workers would still apply to a position that doesn't have significant DE&I policies, 74% of workers polled. I don't know if we could fairly say all Americans feel this way. I think that there is a significant population of people who care a lot, obviously, about DE&I and want to make sure that where they work and the employer for whom they work cares about it too. I don't know. It's a great report in the sense that it's like thorough. I think they cover a lot of things, but I just don't love these like blanket statements without a clear understanding of like who's been surveyed. And I see some fine print here I'm going to read in a moment. But I just think that when there are some key takeaways like that, it needs to talk about people polled, not this generalized like Americans feel this way, people feel this way, workers feel this way. I think it's a little haphazard. So look at me on the 200th episode getting a little shady. I don't know. I mean, it's not shady. It really isn't. It's just honest. So it says, source, all data in this report comes from the Monster 2024 Future of Work survey conducted among U.S. workers and HR professionals in September-October 2023, unless otherwise indicated. It said throughout the year, but okay. 2020. Okay, I'm going to come back to this. Hold on, let me continue. Source data comes from Monster's biweekly polls of U.S. workers conducted among workers in 2023-24. New year, new career, January 2024, mid-year check-in in June 2023. Okay, so the Future of Work survey was conducted by U.S. workers and HR professionals in literally last year, September, October 2023. So when we go back to that key takeaway of 95% of workers are looking for or plan to look for a new job in 2024, this is literally a year old, this data, and it's based on whatever size population or polling population. And also it is the polling population saying 95% of them. And also things were very different a year ago, very different. Things were just not the same. Things are rarely the same year over year. And I just, be skeptical of some of these reports, my friends. And also, I think when we think about trends in the workplace and when we think about how we make decisions or how we, kind of support our opinions, it's really important to get a wealth of information from multiple resources. If I just came on here in this episode to talk about what Monster is reporting on and like all of these fabulous facts, like 95% of people are going to have looked to leave this year. Knowing what I shared at the beginning of the episode is that I feel a little differently, then I'm misleading you as a listener. So whether you are reading or watching videos or listening to podcasts, even as you listen to this, you guys, if you've been here long enough, you know I always tell you, have a healthy dose of critical thinking and skepticism, because it's important that you also seek out information for yourself, because we can't put all of our trust into like one thing or one person or one voice. We have to really dig in deep on our own as well. And even if you use ChatGPT, you could do that too. But you should definitely fact check. And so, yeah, I'm like slightly disappointed in the report because I just think it's a little generalized and fairly presumptive in its approach in terms of like how it's presented. So, one interesting thing that I did want to call out though in the report is that there's a section called Bring Your Manners to Work. And it found that almost 70% of workers who have been polled would consider leaving their job if their employer did not have policies in place around workplace etiquette. Now. If we all ask ourselves if we would leave a job because our employers didn't have workplace etiquette policies, ask yourself, would you leave? I wouldn't. Because A, I'm an HR professional, so I could just build that. I can emphasize that. I can support moving toward better etiquette. But like, does that really make sense? Do we really believe that 70% of workers, now obviously they needed to say 70% of people polled, but do we really believe that 70% of workers would consider leaving their job for a lack of workplace etiquette policies? I don't know. I think that it contradicts the reality of the world. Like, people are often struggling to find employment. Why would they leave over something like that? I'm not saying it's not important. It's obviously important. But it's like, what is workplace etiquette? Are we talking about demonstrating respect? Are we talking about values? Are we talking about tone of voice? Are we talking about harassment? Like, what are we talking about? So, all of this to say, be a little skeptical of the things that you read. Make sure you really have your own opinions also formulated by various resources. So, hey, maybe one of you actually works for Monster or took this survey. It would be interesting to hear your perspective on this. And hopefully you can appreciate what I'm saying here too. But it's interesting. I think they need to put that these takeaways are based on their polling participants. And I think they need to do a more recent point in time look, because this report is really not relevant anymore. So I'm trying to see when it was published, actually. Maybe it was published at the beginning of 2024 and I'm just like late to the jump. I'm trying to see, my friends. I am trying to see. Let me scroll all the way to the bottom. No, I don't think so. I can't tell. But it's possible. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe this was published at the start of 2024 and I'm getting to it late. But even still, as I've said, there's some things that I would change about how the report is presented. So with that, I think my point here is that what is being published in the news, and including on social media, by the way, is not really exactly the reality, I don't think. I think that the reality of the workforce is pretty vastly different than what is being reported on. So maybe you feel the same way. Maybe you feel in total disagreement with me. Either way, that's okay. Let me know. I'll have a poll up on this episode so you can weigh in if you're listening or watching on Spotify. Feel free to add comments, reviews, email me at contact@hrtraci.com, send me a DM on Instagram at hrtraci. And by the way, don't forget to go to my Instagram again to remind you about the giveaway. It should be a lot of fun, and then that way you can enter the giveaway. So, and I just want to close with, again, another expression of gratitude that I just really appreciate you all being here. So whether it's another 200, another 1,000, maybe we never end, whatever it is, I appreciate you being here today and being here tomorrow. Thank you so much. Bye. Hey, just before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the show so that you are the first to hear when an episode drops each week. And maybe leave a 5-star review and a comment about how much you loved this episode. Plus, if you have someone in mind who would really enjoy this episode, make sure you share it with them. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week.